One of my favorite examples is where a new dev team were excited by new technology, so they adopted a bunch of new services, which of course is a great thing to do, and that's how we innovate and get new ideas. But they had the question, how much logging do we need to do? So they were like, we don't know, so we'll just log it all. And so they just turned everything up close to max, and then it made its way into production at that level. And they had a shocking amount of excess data. And my first question to them when I was looking at the bill was, hey, this is quite a lot of detailed data. How are you actioning that? It turns out they were projecting it onto a dashboard. They didn't have any automation off of it. So I was like, maybe many times a second for that particular workload isn't really necessary. Maybe we could turn that down a bit. They turned it down to once every 5 minutes and didn't even notice because the granularity of the dashboard didn't even show up. So they were just burning excess cache there essentially. And so they turned it down and saved a bag of money. So it's an easy thing to happen. And I've seen it happen for very mature teams as well, just because that's not your primary focus, right? You've got to work it. You've done all your testing. You've done your UAT. It's ready to go. Maybe just a last spot check to make sure that you've got the appropriate level of monitoring and logs.
Logging is a really interesting one, though, because I've seen production times when it should be the most expensive. Should maybe is the wrong word to use here. But a really common serverless architecture. So I was working with a customer who had a serverless connected vehicle platform, and they were taking a lot of IoT style events, processing them through things like Lambda on AWS, and obviously doing work with the data. And every time those Lambdas fired, they would emit a short status message to say starting the function, and then at the end, stopping the function. You can't turn that off. That alone was accounting for something like 30% of their logging traffic. So even once they did all the right things and turned the velocity down on the logs and so on, it was still a huge amount of data. And the only way we actually found to stop that was to remove the IAM role on the Lambda function so it couldn't write. And AWS doesn't charge you for it if it doesn't, even if you attempt to write it, but it doesn't hit the CloudWatch, you don't get charged for it. So little tip, if you really want to save money on logging, you can take away permissions for it.